visiting Moscow for the first time, I had all these images in my head that I had gotten from old Cold War era movies of a dark and lonely and depressed city with spies lurking behind every corner. And there are definitely indications of the Soviet history in Russia all throughout Moscow. But more so, there's indications of the progress that Russia has made in the last decade and a half since the fall of the Soviet Union. Perhaps one of my favorite aspects of traveling Moscow is traveling on the underground there. When you travel through Moscow, the stations are artistically designed. I mean, some of the stations themselves are like museums. One of my favorite station is called Revolution Station, and it's the oldest station in the Moscow metro system. And it is a museum unto itself, with sculptures and incredible pieces of art. Our first stop was Red Square, of course. I mean, how could one visit Moscow without going to Red Square? And now I know why it's called Red Square, because everything is painted red. I mean, all the buildings are red. But what's most incredible is the architecture of this place. I mean, St. Basil's Cathedral is amazing. I've never seen a building quite as gorgeous as that. Lenin's tomb was a sight, although you're not allowed to go inside and see Lenin anymore. I was kind of disappointed about that. There was the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, which was very much like our Tomb of the Unknown Soldier here in the States, with an eternal flame and changing of the guard. One of the most beautiful places near Red Square is the flower gardens outside of the art museum there. After Red Square, we went to the Olympic Park. There was a massive sports festival going on there, with every kind of sport you could imagine: soccer, rock climbing, mountain biking. Fortunately, we were there on the day that they were holding the National Belt Wrestling Championships. And for those of you who don't know, belt wrestling is sort of a hybrid style that allows all the various folk-style wrestling athletes to compete under one set of rules. And the rules are similar to sumo or sirum or karash or any folk-style wrestling where it basically involves throwing, no grappling, and the first person to get 3 throws wins the match, or the first person to place their opponent on their back wins the match. We couldn't help but poke a little fun at Greg, because Greg honestly has been the butt of a lot of jokes on this trip, and so we got Greg to sit for a caricature of himself, one of these typical street side artists that does caricatures, and we all get a good laugh out of that one. After a long day of traveling through the city, we had grabbed some lunch, and we finally ended up at the Cathedral of Christ the Savior. This is a massive structure which until 10 years ago was literally the largest indoor pool in the world. Stalin had abolished religion, of course, and tore down many of the churches, and his original intent was to transform this cathedral into a monument for himself with a large statue of himself inside, but that never happened. So what they did was basically tear the roof down and build a giant pool in the indoor aspect of the cathedral. But 10 years ago, the cathedral was rebuilt and remodeled in its old style, and it is really a sight to behold. The onion-domed roof, gold-painted, reflects the sun like nothing I've ever seen. And I wish I could have brought the camera inside the cathedral, because there was not an inch of wall space that was not covered by art.